Hey everyone, my name is a theme park evangelist. So I'm doing a re-upload today, believe it or not. The reason why I'm doing a re-upload is because the original one, the audio was not working for whatever reason. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because I forgot to get my dad's laptop. Microphone privileges. I'm going to look at it somewhere tomorrow when I go to do my live stream. So I'm actually recording this a day early. I'm recording this on Tuesday, May the 6th, and I'm doing my live stream officially on Wednesday, May 7th, and I'm gonna have both. Well, I'm gonna have this upload officially at 5 p.m. tomorrow. So when you do see this eventually, it will be 5 p.m. So right now it's about 2 p.m. I was originally supposed to be working an earlier shift today, but because of the fact that I needed more hours, I switched with a coworker, a former Publix employee from Florida. She actually just transferred, so she's a transferee, and I'm now working 3:45 to 11 tonight, or whenever I happen to get off, which will probably be closer to midnight, knowing my luck. So I am vlogging this time from the kitchen, which is the first time I've done that in a long time, because of the fact that I'm getting ready to have cereal here in a little bit. I'm starting off with finishing up my pizza rolls, which were BOGO this week. Today is the last day of the sale, because Publix does sales differently here in Northern Kentucky, or just Kentucky and Tennessee in general, versus down in Florida. So, I'm going to eat my pizza rolls, then pause long enough to eat my cereal, and then we'll continue on. So, yeah, I know I'm doing things a little backwards today. I've actually already gotten completely ready, other than I got to get ready for work. Like, as in just get dressed for work is all I need to do. Everything else I've already done. And then I remembered, oh, yeah, that's right. I still need to eat. I'm like, how did I forget to eat? But then again, this is coming from the guy who's not been eating or drinking properly over the past couple of weeks or so. So I'm not really surprised by anything anymore. But I've been doing a little bit better today. So this re-upload is ironically going to be about how I have grown in my faith ever since I moved here to Northern Kentucky. So I'm gonna obviously start out with backtracking here and talking about when I was living down in Central Florida. So when I was living in Central Florida, I was obviously born and raised into a Christian home, and much better now. I just want to make sure. And when I was living in that home originally, my parents were already attending a launch church. What is a launch church? It is a baby church off of a bigger church. So, more or less, this launch church we were attending all the way up to like 2001, something like that, maybe 2002. And while we were there, I became a Christian. So, how I became a Christian, now you might ask. Here's the short version. My longer version is already on here, and you can actually learn about it on this playlist that I'm uploading this vlog to. More or less, I was going to church just to appease my parents, and honestly, I was the only two big reasons why I felt inclined to go to church whatsoever, other than to appease my parents, was to get free donuts, which this church ironically provided free donuts every week. I think it was Krispy Kreme, if I'm not mistaken. And at the time, my favorite donut type was the Bavarian cream. And the other biggest reason why I was going to church at the time was to see my friends. I've always been extroverted, so I'm not really surprised by any means that I didn't really feel a need to go to church for any other reason. I used to be the kind of guy who would stand there, even as a kid, during the songs and not sing. Like, if I'm in the back of the church, my church these days, like doing AV, I won't sing only because of the fact that I don't want my singing to distract anybody else back there trying to focus on doing their portion, and B, because of the fact that I want to be completely focused in case I need to be aware of anything going on that I need to be aware of. But that doesn't mean that I'm not singing in my heart either. I'm sure that I could sing quietly to myself, but I'm singing in my heart instead. And I would say honestly, my favorite part about doing the EV at church is the fact that I get to hear the sermon twice. So the first time I take notes, the second time I go back and I listen to something I somehow missed the first time around. And I'm like, I didn't even hear that the first time. Like, how did I not hear that? But when I was first going to church as a kid, I used to fall asleep doing AV because I didn't care. Like, these days, I actually am genuinely 100% focused. I want to be there. I actually care. And, it's just amazing as a kid. You just, especially when you're not saved, you just don't care. And then, I didn't even like dressing up for that matter either, especially for church. I was just like, why do I have to go to this? It's not like these days, sometimes, quite often, I fall behind, but, I always tell myself, well, I want to be there. And the other day I had to miss church, and I felt awful, and I was upset that I had to miss, but it bothered me all day. As a kid, I wouldn't have cared. I would have been like, oh, well. And I'm starting to notice more and more, how much it's bothering me, especially when, I see worldly people and they're talking about what they would much rather be doing on a Sunday, or what they did on a Sunday. And I'm thinking to myself, how dare you not want to go to church? And it really starts bothering you more and more as a Christian, as an adult. Like, it honestly, genuinely does. So I went to that church up until, like I said, early 2000s. Then my parents moved away. They moved to Claremont. And, I stayed with them for a long time. Then I ended up going to another church called Winter Garden Baptist. And then after that, we moved again to Polk County, Florida. And, well, specifically Lake Wales is what I meant to say. And I started going to Dundee Baptist, but it wasn't until I went to Calvary Baptist Church off of Overlook Drive that my parents started making the decision about whether they want to go back to a church plant or not. And they started listening to this guy named James Smith in the Sunday school class, and they really liked his teachings. And in 2008, I believe, they officially joined his church called Surf Church. He got the name from Joshua 24:15, and naturally, I felt inclined to join as well. In 2009, it started meeting at Winter Haven Christian School. It no longer meets there. It now meets at Hampton Inn in Lake Wales, Florida. That's a public statement for anybody who wants to join. You can go check out that church. It's been meeting there since 2020. It's actually because of COVID that it no longer meets there. So I attended that church off and on for about 10 years. I attended various churches in Winter Haven, Florida. Not going to go into it because it would take way too long, including Lake Wales for that matter, too. It would take way too long to go into it because I just didn't know what I was looking for. I really started losing my faith and focus on God. And I'm going to actually take a pause there, with that being said. That pause literally gave me a chance to inhale my pizza roll, so that was definitely a blessing. So, anyway, when I finally start figuring out where I wanted to be church wise, I went back to serve and I rejoined as a member. But unfortunately, during the time that I was trying to figure out where I wanted to attend church, I was hanging out with TJ like every single week. It was ridiculous because of the fact that I wanted to more or less hang out with him, whether it was going out to eat, whether it was going to Disney, Universal, Legoland, going out bar hopping. Like, that was just the kind of stuff we did back then. And, we never really stopped and thought about the consequences, per se, of those kind of things until it was too late. And I never really stopped and thought about how much money I was spending either. I was already doing that kind of crap with Chad, my former coworker from a long time ago, from Publix. But then, I started doing that with TJ. And that was not a good thing. So, more or less, once I moved up here to Kentucky, I started getting my life back in order. And I'll tell you guys right now, those first few months really hit me hard like a brick wall. I actually remember my very first night. I was living in Ellesmere, and I cried because everything I knew, everything I loved, everything I grew up doing was, 14 hours away now. There was no going back. This wasn't, me staying the night and then moving on to the next destination. This wasn't me staying the night here in Kentucky and then going back to Florida the next day. This was, me. This was real. This was me living here in Kentucky. This was like, wow. Excuse me, sorry. And then I just continued staying here. I mean, sure, TJ came to visit me in September of 2019. February 2020, I went down and I saw TJ for his birthday. 2021, February again, I went and celebrated TJ's birthday again. And really got to experience what COVID was like down in Florida. 2022, February once again, I went and celebrated TJ's birthday again. Then went back again in September and for a wedding. That was the last wedding I've ever been to. June, I'm going to another wedding, and then I'm getting married in August. So it's kind of where I've been at right now. And then 2023, I went in July, and just took Katie for the very first time. And then finally, February 2024, I went for TJ's 30th birthday. And then I'm finally going back to Florida again in September to celebrate my honeymoon. So that's pretty much what this year, the past several years have been like. But, I know every single year God has given me challenges And every single year they've gotten harder. I can't, say every single one's been easy. I learned back in late 2022 when I was living with my parents how difficult it was to live without a shower, an upstairs bathroom at that. And then in 2023, I learned what it was like to have two different families collide, both Katie's side and my side. It was the first time I had ever had to deal with that in my life. In 2021, I learned what it was like to just be lonely for the very first time ever. I mean, 2020, I did fall in love with a woman, but it turns out she wasn't who I thought she would be. And sure, she stabbed me in the back for it, but it really didn't affect me until the following year. But I also learned in 2021 that God wasn't done with me yet. And God literally turned around and rewarded me for my patience and brought my future wife to me that July. It was one of those, like, I never would have seen that coming, ever. And it was like, wow. And in 2020, God tested me again by seeing how I would handle working in retail during the pandemic. I was never ready for it, but yet I did it anyway. And I would say the most recent 2024, this, before we get to the here and now, I learned the hard way how hard it was to, trying to think here, learn how to live with an engaged partner and just all the challenges that come with that. 2023, what really made 2023 hard to me more than anything was knowing that I was actually getting really serious about this woman. And, not just the fact that, I'm starting to have the whole part and two sides of the family bicker with each other, and I didn't know how to handle it. But I also was taking on the fact that, this woman and I are getting serious about each other, and it's just a matter of when she's ready to take it up a notch. And, then the whole aspect of the fact that the engagement was around the corner and I had never been there in my life. And that actually brings us to now. Now we're going into something more stressful than I ever could have possibly imagined. But my faith in God has grown so much over the past several years to where I'm at right now, which is the fact that, I'm getting married and the stress has never been higher. Like I said, now we're joining families. Katie will now become part of the Dunbars. I will become part of the Blanchards. And the two of us, Katie and I, will become one flesh because we're both Christians, and we strongly believe in that. And I've never, never would have imagined I would ever spend the rest of my life with a woman ever in my life, and yet I'm going to. And it's just like, oh my word, I don't know how to take this. And I thought that 2023 was hard, and it's been even harder this year by like 100 times. I've been forced to do stuff I never would have imagined myself doing. I've been forced to communicate with my dad, my mom, my brother, my future father-in-law, my future mother-in-law, all that fun jazz, one-on-one, on a consistent basis. Even if I don't want to, I have to. If it means keeping my sanity, I gotta do it. I wasn't doing that 2023, but now I am. And it's the only way that I can stay just even somewhat sane. And then, just most importantly, having complete faith and trust in God that He's going to have everything be completely under control, knowing that God has not given up on me yet. That's a big one. Because the moment that we start doubting God, that's not a good thing. Because there's no way I'm going to get through my married life if I'm going to doubt in God at all. I can assure you guys that right now. So, yeah, more or less, guys, as I come to a close, first of all, everybody's lives are different. Everybody's journeys, journeys through life, everybody's paths are all different. But the only way that we're ever going to make it through this journey we call life is to stay faithful and focused on God. I don't know what everybody is going through. My roommate, as much as he drives me crazy, as much as he stresses me out, as much as he gets on my nerves, he's gone through a lot over the past year or so, just since I've met him. He's lost his grandmother. He's gone on 2 different mission trips across the world, and yet he's still kept his faith in God this entire time. He's still known that God has not given up on him. He's still working full time at the Ark and the zoo. He's still doing very well, and he's still doing well financially. And I feel like that's a huge win for him. My brother, he's another person that often gets on my nerves, but you know what? He's going back to school for the first time in a long time. He's working a full-time job and a part-time job. One of them, he's a manager, assistant manager, and he's doing very well. He's getting ready to go back to school and get his master's degree. And I mean, I can't, be more proud of him. But the most important thing is he's kept his faith up in God this entire time. He's known that God is the only one that can get him through from day to day. Not himself, but God. And then I'll mention one more person. TJ has recently surprised me by stating he's become a Christian. I don't know how true that is, but we'll just go with it. TJ and I have known each other 10 years as of late November or early December. When TJ and I first met, he was just a dishwasher at Steak and Shake. He was a nobody. But now he's on his way to becoming an assistant manager at Ollie's in Lake Wales. And I mean, he has worked so many different jobs. He's honestly turned his back on God many times. But if he truly has become a Christian, then, God is rewarding him for it. And I can see that. I'm very proud of him for his hard work. I'm very proud of him for going back to church. And I'm very proud of him for never giving up. Am I impressed with him for not accepting the fact that my life is to be, or I want to spend the rest of my life, I should say, with Katie? No. Because of the fact that, I want to spend the rest of my life with Katie and not go back and live near him, or even with him for that matter. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. But, what am I going to do? I can't change who he is. I gotta love him for where he's at and who he is. So, I'm gonna go ahead and encourage you guys to watch my live stream tomorrow. So tomorrow, I'm gonna be discussing some major changes that I made to my honeymoon trip in September. And I'm also going to go over some of my upcoming vlogs over the next few weeks, just to kind of give you guys an idea of where I'm at right now. And I'm also going to go over some different rules to look out for if you are a current subscriber when it comes to my privacy. And I'm also going to be kind of just talking about some personal stuff with you guys, with it being Star Wars week, so to speak, right now, and also Cinco de Mayo week. So I will look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, and always remember, you can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. Have a great day. Peace out.